Hello everyone, today I'd like to talk about some ships that I used to think I would hate when I got to them and thought the grind would be torturous, as they tend to be free damage for anything with decent sized guns, and even some smaller guns. These ships are the Russian light cruisers, specifically the Chapayevs or the Project 68s. And honestly, once I started playing them, my opinion about them changed massively. I want to specify before I get into this that the background gameplay isn't a massive slaughterfest like a cherry-picked down tier would be, but it does exemplify a lot of the points I'm about to talk about, along with it being a comeback victory that I think was partially caused by my ship. But with that being said, we can move into why and how my opinion changed and why I actually kinda liked these cruisers as I ground them out. Now these ships are still complete glass cannons, but they can excel with an aware captain, and they do require a differing playstyle from a lot of the other lines. They do not take any hits well, and basically have no armor and very exposed shell rooms, magazines, and engine components. All of this leads them to be extremely prone to violently exploding or losing a lot of their crew just to general damage. These ships can handle shots from destroyers and early light cruisers, but they still do need to angle, as some of those ships can get a lucky shot in and once again just explode you. And even if those smaller guns don't penetrate you, they will whittle away your crew, which you also can't really afford because once again your crew does disappear rather quickly if something big gets its guns on you and actually hits you. And while a lot of times players will just say, well, I can keep the same playstyle as the other lines, I'll just dodge a little bit more. These ships aren't the best at turning, they take a long time to complete their turns, so it leaves you rather vulnerable if the enemies can get their shells to you before the ship actually, gets out of the way of them. So a lot of players will push in with these and just once again explode because they didn't expect them to be so lackluster at turning. They are rather fast ships overall as well, but it is hard to jockey their speed to actually dodge stuff, because while they are fast at the top of their speed, it takes a long time for them to get there, especially from stopped. So if you're trying to just reverse and dodge and then go forward again, their follow-up shot's probably going to catch you because these ships just can't speed up in time. But that's kind of the end of the negatives on these, because the guns that they have the benefit of being very punchy, have a great rate of fire, and have high velocity shells, making them very dangerous even at medium to long ranges. These guns have good firing angles, making it easy for them to fire even while you're heavily angled during turns, and they have good traverse speeds, which also help the gun swap sides easily if you are maneuvering. And all of this basically forces you to change your playstyle massively in order to accommodate the strengths and weaknesses of these cruisers. You have to shift to playing them at range while continuously maneuvering, which gives these cruisers time to avoid the enemy shell fire even with their longer turns. And once again, I would not suggest trying to slow down in order to dodge shells because they do not speed up that well. You have to utilize the gun's shell velocity to tear enemy destroyers and cruisers apart, as your high shell speed makes them very hard to dodge, and the shells can shred most enemies short of battleships. Basically, if your opponents have even medium armor in some cases, these shells will pick them apart, if not find their way to their magazines and completely detonate them. Basically, anything downrange of you that doesn't have battleship levels of armor will definitely have to fear your guns, because whether it's the armor piercing, the semi-armor piercing, or even in many cases the high explosive from this cruiser will absolutely shred them apart, and once again they'll either die from crew loss or just exploding because your armor piercing or semi-armor piercing found their magazine, which it seems to be rather good at. You will, however, have to expect to be targeted due to both being a threat because of these guns and because you are such an easy kill. A lot of players, me included, will initially target these ships because it is basically a free kill. A lot of players will sail these in a straight line, and like I've been saying, they are extremely explosive, so even the smallest hit will quickly send them to the bottom. So a lot of players will just focus you because of that. It's basically a reflex for them. So you will definitely have to expect to be targeted, and you can counter this by staying behind your team. You can't really push in with these ships unless it's an extreme down tier, and even then torpedoes are a huge threat due to your lackluster turning ability. You basically have to stay in the back and let your friendlies shield for you and dodge any shells that might happen to come your way. You will have to focus threats to your team or people pushing cap zones, and you're basically acting as the damage support ship for your team. You're basically the backline ranger, the AD carry, or any other squishy damage dealer analogy that you can come up with. You have to be extremely cautious that the fast speed of your ship doesn't put you in front of your team or make you an easy target. It's best to use it to move around for good firing angles or to retreat into cover or behind allies. You have to remember that a lot of the battleships that you're playing with at these tiers, assuming you're in a slight up tier, are a lot slower than you and are very ponderous. It takes them a long time to get to the battlefield, and if you're just full sending it towards the enemy team so that you can get some shots in, you're quickly going to find yourself out in front of your team and getting quickly shredded down. You also have to be very vigilant about enemies getting close to you. The closer that they are, the easier it will be for them to destroy your ship, once again mainly due to the lackluster turning ability of these cruisers. In the background gameplay, you can constantly see me looking around for where the enemy battleships are aiming or where they are positioned, just due to this. I'm trying to keep any enemies that can delete me off the map in the back of my mind, keeping an eye on where they're positioned, where their guns are aiming, and who their next target might be, and if I'm able to retreat away from them to make myself less of a target for them, I tend to do that. And of course, once they actually get removed from that position by sometimes my teammates or me, I will move back in and push up to support my allies more. And the nice part is that the devs kind of buffed your playstyle for this, as War Thunder just made it easier a little bit ago to see tracers that are headed into the general area of your ship, and they made shell splashes much louder and more apparent. You can utilize these to know when somebody has decided they want you gone and maneuver accordingly. Obviously, if you're sailing in one direction for too long in a straight line, most likely they're going to decide that you're an easy target and shoot at you. And if they miss that first shot, at least you have time to maneuver then. Along with this, the extra visible tracers means that if you're looking up into the sky between your shots, you can see if anybody's shooting in your general direction and just try to maneuver in order to avoid their fire and make it extremely hard to hit your ship for potentially their follow-up shots, so that they will most likely leave you alone and move on to an easier target. With all that being said, overall I quickly changed my thoughts on these ships as soon as I started to play them more passively. You don't have the survivability of other light cruisers like Cleveland to push into the enemy team, so you are stuck sitting back and helping your team through the sheer damage output of your guns, while doing your best to survive any return fire from enemies that have deemed you too annoying to continue existing. You will struggle to win matches, however, if your team is extremely passive as well and won't take advantage of your supporting fire. I certainly go into matches fully expecting to randomly and violently explode, but I always get a thrill out of dodging the enemy fire and absolutely shredding their team in the meantime. As with many light cruisers though, if you do get into a battleship heavy match, good luck. War Thunder has decided to punish you for decimating destroyers, and you'll spend most of the match dodging enemy fire while attempting to deal some damage back to the battleships. Though it's certainly less of a struggle than the other lines have, as your guns do have enough punch to at least harass these enemy battleships. I do see a lot of people struggle with these cruisers due to their lack of defense, and I thought I was going to as well, but I was very surprised that I did enjoy them, so hopefully these tips will help some people just work these ships a little bit better and finish that grind a little bit easier. Good luck out there guys, and I'll see you in the next one.